What I never told Jamie, Dakota Johnson finally speaks, the truth she kept hidden for years. The night Jamie confessed everything on camera, Los Angeles was bathed in a strange light. The wind blew gently through the palm trees, bringing the warmth of the city but also a strange cold feeling that gripped Dakota Johnson's mind. She returned to her apartment in West Hollywood in silence, no lights on, no music playing. She just sat on the sofa looking out the window. The city was still bustling as usual, but to Dakota, today the world seemed to have changed color. Jamie said something. Something she never thought he would say. Something she herself had kept inside for years. His voice still echoed in her head. I loved her. I kept it all inside. Dakota placed her hand on her chest. She felt her heart pounding loudly, as if it were about to burst out of her chest. Not because of shock, but because she knew, deep down, that what he said was the truth. But she also knew, the truth was not simple. Flashback, the day Dakota got the role of Anastasia Steele. Dakota closed her eyes, letting the memories roll in like waves. It was 2013. She got the role of Anastasia Steele after countless auditions and public pressure. But what she remembered most wasn't the excitement or the nerves. It was the moment Jamie walked into the shared audition room, the first time they stood together in a closed space. She remembered every little detail. The gray t-shirt, the slightly wet messy hair, the slightly shy stance but the magnetic gaze. When they began reading their lines, the room seemed to stop. Not because of their acting skills, but because of the strange energy between them. Dakota had never experienced anything like it. Something pulled her toward him. She tried to deny it right then. No, Dakota, we're colleagues. This is just work. But her heart, even though she had only known him for an hour, was against her mind. The day Jamie got married, and the feeling Dakota never said. When filming began, Jamie was a married man. He wore his wedding ring on set. He spoke of his wife with respect and affection. Dakota remembered the strange feeling she had when she saw it, the simple ring that weighed so heavily on her heart. She joked to break the awkwardness. You know what? That ring makes Christian Grey disappear instantly. Jamie smiled, a warm smile that made her even more confused. But after each time, Dakota reminded herself. You can't have feelings. You can't like him. But her heart betrayed her more and more. Scenes that made Dakota lose her boundaries. Dakota opened her eyes and looked at the ceiling. Images from the filming days flashed back in slow motion. Jamie carrying her through the doorway. His hand touching hers, his eyes piercing her heart. They're standing close together in the elevator, their breaths mingling. Moments that seemed like acting, but to her, they were deeper than that. Once, after a particularly tense intimate scene, the director yelled, "Cut!" but Jamie held her for a few more seconds. Dakota remembered his heart pounding against her shoulder. They pulled apart. Neither dared to look the other in the eye. They both knew what was happening. But they were both afraid to admit it. Dakota's hidden truth. Dakota took a deep breath, Jamie's voice echoing in her head. I loved her. She burst into tears, but not because of the pain. Because she had wanted to hear it so much. For years, Dakota had kept a secret. She loved Jamie, too. Not the kind of love that was fleeting. Not because of the physical attraction. Not because they were making out. But because of the little moments. Jamie fixing her hair during a break in filming. Jamie bringing her hot tea when she had a cold. Jamie asking, "Are you okay?" with a sincerity rarely seen in Hollywood. Jamie looking at her from behind the camera as if he had forgotten the entire crew. Dakota once wrote in her diary, "If things were different, maybe he and I would have been real." But she never said it. Not to her friends. Not to her mother. Not to Jamie. Why Dakota chose to remain silent? She kept silent for 3 reasons. First, Jamie had a family. Dakota grew up in the showbiz world, where scandals could destroy someone's life overnight. She didn't want to be the reason Jamie's family fell apart. Second, she was afraid of losing him. The truth sometimes kills beautiful things. If she said she loved him, would Jamie become distant? Would they still be able to act together? Third, she didn't want to be hurt. There was always a fear in her heart. Jamie might not love her as much as she loved him. She chose to remain silent. And silence is sometimes a way of loving. After the movie, when both tried to forget each other. After 50 Shades Freed, Dakota tried to move on. She dated. She worked. She traveled. She laughed on talk shows. But every time she opened her phone and saw Jamie's name in the group text, her heart still pounded. She missed his voice. She missed his eyes. She missed the feeling of him looking at her as if she were the only one in the room. Dakota had tried to distance herself, but the further away she was, the more she missed him. The day she heard Jamie confess. When she was invited to see her reaction to Jamie's confession, Dakota thought it was just a media stunt. But when Jamie said, "I loved her," everything inside her collapsed. She wanted to run to him. She wanted to scream. "Why didn't you say so sooner?" She felt both liberated and also felt her heart suffocated with terrible regret. What did Dakota want to say in that moment? She wanted to say, "I love you too. I've kept it inside for years. You're not the only one who's hurt. We could have had a different ending." But in front of the camera, she couldn't say it all. She couldn't say that there were nights when she cried because she missed him. She couldn't say that there were moments when she wanted to call him just to hear his voice. Dakota only said, "You think I don't know?" But that was just the tip of the iceberg. The truth was deeper. She knew, so well. And what hurt her was, he thought she didn't feel it. The moment she put her hand on Jamie's. When Dakota walked into the studio, she saw Jamie standing there, his eyes red, his face tense, as if waiting for a verdict. She'd seen him like this before, when he was worried about Dakota getting hurt during a difficult scene, when he blamed himself for hurting her shoulder during a hand-holding scene, when he apologized for making her cry for real after an argument. But today was different. Today, he was afraid of losing her completely. Dakota moved closer to him. She put her hand on his. Not to comfort, but to say wordlessly, "I'm here." In that moment, Dakota's heart felt like it was going to explode. After the interview, the truth she didn't tell on camera. When the door closed after she left the studio, Dakota walked straight out into the studio's backyard. The cold wind blew across her face, sobering her. She looked up at the Los Angeles night sky, her eyes filling with tears. And here's the truth she didn't tell on camera. There was a moment in her life when she wanted to drop everything and run to Jamie. She had imagined living in a little house on the beach with him, cooking with him, listening to him sing in the shower, watching him hold their child, fighting and then making up with long hugs. She had wanted all of that. But she knew. Life isn't a movie. It doesn't always have a happy ending. Not all love can be fulfilled. Sometimes, love means being willing to stand back and watch someone else be happy, even if it's not with you. Dakota wrote in her diary that night. It was almost midnight when she returned to her apartment. Dakota opened the notebook she hadn't written in for a long time. She wrote, Jamie said he loved me. Late, but true. I loved him too, for a long time. But we were both afraid of the truth. The silence saved us, but it also hurt us. She touched the words she had written. If life were a movie, I would run to you right now. But in real life, I can only wish you peace. A tear fell onto the page. Dakota's final truth. Dakota stood up and looked in the mirror. She saw a strong but wounded woman. She whispered to herself, Jamie is not my mistake. Jamie is the most beautiful thing I can't keep. Though her heart ached, Dakota smiled softly, a bitter but peaceful smile. She knew, tomorrow, everything would change. The whole world would analyze, comment, even judge. But only she and Jamie knew. They loved each other, in a way no one but them could understand. And it was a truth that didn't need to be admitted to the media, only admitted in her heart. That night, Dakota sent a text message. When the clock read 2:17 a.m., she picked up her phone, her hand shaking slightly. She texted Jamie. Thanks for telling the truth. It's late, but I've waited for this for years. She paused. Then she texted again. If someday you want to tell the rest, I'll listen. She didn't say I love you. She didn't say come to me. But for Dakota, that was the only opening she could allow herself. She turned off her phone and lay down on the bed. For the first time in years, she fell asleep peacefully. Because the truth had finally been told.